Just keep talking.
All right.
Just keep on going.
Keep on smiling.
Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We've got a very special emergency announcement session today. We've got a lot of people up here who most of you will probably recognize faces of. But here's the thing, is that we are currently in legislative session right now, and there is some stuff coming down the pike that we need to be very aware of as an investor community to understand that there's some stuff that could really damage some very valuable strategies, not only for us, but mainly for what is helping consumers out there in the state. So we wanted to come together, band together, get one voice heard as a community, and have an opportunity, because we've had a lot of questions from people asking, hey, what can I do to help the Texas 100? What can I do to go out there and make sure that this legislation is going to be passed in a way that does help consumers but doesn't damage us, and that's what we're here to talk about here. So Eddie has done a great job championing this. If you for some reason don't know who this is Eddie Speed, a guy who's been around in the business for a massive amount of time. Scott Horn, an attorney, has been doing this, what, 35 years? Guys, it's time for us to come together. So I'm going to pass this over to Eddie for a moment so he can kind of introduce you to what is going on at this moment, and how can we take action as a group and as a community together to help us and the consumer out.
Well, you know, real estate investors, and specifically people that seller finance, in past times that there's things that have come up within the law, we didn't have good representation. We didn't operate as a unit together. And so we've prepared for this. We have joined with the guys in South Texas that are actually land developers, but they seller finance land, and they do it excessively. It's $1 billion business a year down there. They've had a lobby effort for 20 years. They've had a very successful lobby relationship with lawmakers. They have a trusted seat at the table. And I've known those guys for a long time, and we realize that real estate investors that are offering seller financing around the country in Texas all needed to band together and be able to work. So if you've heard of the Texas 100, and we're all members of the Texas 100, the Texas 100 is for bigger operators to make a financial commitment to work together in Texas. So if you're a big operator and you're on the edge about should I join Texas 100, we would all say the answer is yes. But in addition to that, there is a meeting coming up that is critical for literally everybody in Texas that offers seller financing. Why is this meeting so important? It's called the Texas Home and Mortgage Symposium. 1st of March. We'll have all the dates and stuff on that in a minute. Mm-hmm. Why is it important for us to go and meet? Because the lawmakers need to see us. The people that run the agencies that oversee the transactions that we do, they get to see us, they get to engage with us, they get to understand basically where we're coming from. You know, it's been thought by some people in Austin that really there's just can't be that much seller financing because they never have met or seen these guys or know what it looks like. So why is it important that we come together as an industry and kind of do this in a unified fashion? Because they need to see us as a business that has a commitment to ethics, that has a commitment to how the laws are written and complying with those laws, and that we're an industry that's willing to work together amongst ourselves so that they feel like, yeah, we can write laws because we're helping these guys that clearly are willing to go in step together to do it. So, you know, and I thought it'd be good, Grant, let's pass it around a little bit and just talk about a couple of things I think that are important. Lawmakers' job is to represent all the people in their district or all the people that they think are affected by them. And so if you buy seller finance notes and you're buying thousands, yes, right, you're one vote, but those people that are being benefited by seller financing represents 1,000 people that are in the market, right? Correct. So they are concerned that we're not only doing things that are smart business decisions for us, but we're doing things that are great decisions for our customers. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So I thought it would be good and just talk about that for a minute because that's clearly, Grant, right, the messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important. And, you know, we've talked about, you know, Kristen buying notes and seeing thousands of people that, you know, Scott, how many closings have you seen go through where there's a buyer that was unable to get a house, would have been unable to get a loan from a bank, but is able to access home ownership through the wraparound mortgage?
I'd say we've probably done
in that regard, 10,000 transactions over the years. And it is so just an important industry because so many home buyers cannot qualify for a loan. And if you can't qualify for a loan, sometimes you're stuck doing a subprime mortgage, which really don't even exist today hardly. But also, they're stuck. They're going to be tenants, or they're going to live under a bridge, one or the other. And seller financing gives them the chance to become a homeowner, to own the home, to get the tax benefits, to work towards building up their credit so they can go do a traditional refinance on the property. And so I think that is an important consideration out there for the entire industry.
It absolutely is.
I want to echo Eddie, though. It's the unity factor, Eddie. You know, I go back years ago to 05, 07, when we were out trying to contest the lease option laws that were being changed, et cetera. And the Texas real estate investment community had zero unity. It was worse than herding cats out there. And to be able to come together as a group to show the legislators that we are a legitimate business. What I found was when the state finally realized how large the real estate investment community was, it got the governor's voice at that point in time. But before that, they had no idea.
And that's the important thing for everybody watching to understand is that, and I'll introduce everybody here in just a second for those that may not know the people who are standing up here, but it's not just, you know, like we mentioned a second ago, it's like, hey, you know, if you're a large player, then this is not just a large player issue. This is something, if you are interested in this industry and getting in at all, at any level, you have a voice, right? This is we live in a democracy. We are just as represented as anybody else. And unless we have that unity, unless we are able to come together, and look, I get it, guys. No matter what industry you're in, no matter where you are, if it's high school or the Fortune 500 or the real estate investor community, there's going to be cliques, and you know your own circle, and you know, blah 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 blah. All of our circles have to come together with this. Everybody has to come together as one voice because we all have one thing in mind, and that is that we are helping consumers and we are providing for our families through this business at the same time. And so we have to be heard, just like what Scott said here. So just to take a moment, for those of you who may not know everybody up here, I'll start to my left. Mr. Corey Thompson. Corey is an excellent seller financer, creative guy who does a lot of different things, especially in the rural communities. You know, he's really helping a lot of folks out. I call it in the sticks, you know, out there where other people aren't necessarily serving. Has worked with a lot of banks in doing that, has worked with a lot of sellers in doing that, and has certainly helped a lot of buyers get into houses and spread that out. So a lot of you guys know Corey in that way. Scott Horn, an amazing attorney, one of the preeminent attorneys in Texas for doing seller financing. I mean, if you're doing seller financing, you probably know who Scott Horn is. This is a guy who taught me everything I know, as a partner of mine for first 5 or 6 years of my career. Just an amazing bounty of knowledge. Eddie Speed has been here. You know, how long have you been doing this?
I started in 1980.
Started in 1980.
We call him the
I was born in 84.
I was born in 84. So again, another massive voice, massive authority, somebody who really knows what's going on. And thank goodness for guys like Eddie and Mitch Steven, who's not may or may not be able to join us. He's got some stuff going on right now, who've been able to kind of champion this and allow us that opportunity to have that voice. So thank you for really championing this effort. Tang Nguyen, you know, guys, if you're on Facebook, you know who Tang Nguyen is. This guy has done a great job of coming out fairly recently, you know, in comparison to, you know, we've got some grizzled veterans to my left and to my right, but Tang, when'd you get into this business? 2014-ish, something like that? 2016. Okay, wow. Gotcha. And in that time has just built a massive portfolio of houses that have allowed, again, people to get into homes that wouldn't have been able to, people to sell homes that wouldn't have been able to. And then again, Miss Kristen Gerst, who, again, if you are watching this, you most likely know and does a lot of note purchasing, a lot of note sales, has seen a lot of, you know, we create notes. I teach how to create notes, and Corey creates notes, you know, Scott creates notes, Tang creates notes. Eddie and Kristen buy them and broker them and sell them and can help you out.
And as far as how much volume there is, I mean, I'm closing almost $2 million in notes, buying and selling in the next week.
In the next week? In
the next week, and I've got 5 in my inbox right now to start going through. So there's a lot of business out there, and there are a lot of people who owner finance, you know, and there's a huge market for it.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about this, and Eddie, you alluded to this a second ago, you know, guys, we are but one individually. But, you know, for instance, take like a Tang, like I mentioned, you know, he's done a lot of things. This is one Tang. But he's put a lot of buyers into houses, and the ability to do that in the future is what's being threatened here. And so another thing that we want to be really clear on before kind of moving on to some other points is, I know a lot of people kind of have a gut reaction of like, oh no, it's the big bad lawmaker, and they're taking something from, and that's not what's happening here, guys. We need to be very clear that the lawmakers are doing a great job at protecting the consumer and at representing the people who are in their districts and whose voices have been heard by them. And they're doing everything they can to make sure they're doing things the right way. But it's up to us to make sure that they understand kind of the full breadth of what's being talked about, right?
There are horror stories out there.
Absolutely.
There are.
And and I mean, it breaks your heart. I mean, I can remember going to court for like evictions or something, and you're seeing these people who are saying, "Oh, I did make payments," and they're being foreclosed anyways. But that's why we have to have RMLOs, and we have to have attorneys and servicers and make sure that everything is done legally. And if everything's done legally and properly, there shouldn't be issues with this industry at all.
Yeah, but Kristen, I also see it's not just the legality of it per se. It's an understanding. It's helping the seller, if it's the investor, or even the homeowner who needs an exit strategy for their home, but letting them understand how to navigate and handle their transaction properly, but also with the home buyer, so that they realize what they need to do along the way too. Right. And it's just recognizing those kind of issues. I want to go back a little bit also about our unity factor, Eddie, because I go back 10, 13 years ago now, and what the state was so concerned about at the time of our lease options was a group called Acorn, because they had a voice. They had a unity factor. We as an investor group could not come in at that unity factor. And I think showing them that unity together helps to have that unified voice and to show them we do want things in this business to be done the right way and how it really does benefit the consumer as well as the marketplace as well out there.
And speaking of voices, we do want to, this is a good opportunity, guys. We've got a lot of people who know a lot of stuff about what's going on right now. This is a good opportunity to throw your questions into the comments. And please, if I can't implore you enough, share this video to every Facebook group that you know. Share this video to your own page. Just hit that share button. If you're on YouTube, like it. All those kinds of things, because quite frankly, the Facebook algorithm likes that. The YouTube algorithm likes that. And we need this message heard by as many people as possible, because it is time to band together. So now that we have this opportunity, throw questions into the comments. We'd love to address some of those as we go forward. We have one question from Mortgage Medic USA, which I happen to know is Brady.
Yeah, it's Brady Durham.
He says, when asking people to contact congressmen en masse, it helps when you have a pre-written statement for people as a guide to email or call lawmakers with a coherent message. Eddie, can you address that for a second?
Brady, we'll have all of that. Okay, we're not at a point this week where that's what we need to be doing. Now, when we need to do that, we're going to use all these social media channels and all these other organizations to be able to accomplish that. But right now, we are more at the table with the lawmakers. Right. We're at the table with them. We know that some laws are going to be presented or that need to be presented, and we'll talk about those individually. But right now, at the moment, it's not on the floor, so we don't want to wear out our lawmakers when that real messaging needs to be 60 days from now. And so we will do that when the time comes, and we're completely aware of the fact that helping you guys message things is important. You're going to see all of these things unfold when you come to the symposium. Right? Everything is going to make sense to you.
When are these laws getting presented?
Well, once again, it's the whole goal with the laws is for us to have a seat at the table with the lawmaker, so that before the law is submitted, we've already kind of agreed on everything, right? That's the most effective way to get legislation done.
And Casey, thank you so much for asking that. How can you get involved and support this movement? There's a couple of different ways. The most major thing that we need everybody to take away from this is that we've got the symposium March 5th and 6th. We're going to be going down to Austin. We need everybody and their dog in this business to join us so that we can be seen as a single voice. Corey showed up. First thing he's like, hey man, I already got a couple of people into the Texas 100 on the way here. And that's one of the things. I mean, what tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you made some calls and let people know what's going on.
Well, I'm in rural America, so we don't really pay attention to this stuff. I mean, every attorney in every town does owner finance transactions. You can do them in all small towns. And losing the ability to wrap a mortgage, not only with your local bank that allow them, but it limits the rural consumer greatly because a lot of homes won't qualify for an FHA loan.
Right.
And a lot of people don't have the 20% to put down. So it allows an investor to step in and help somebody become a homeowner. And if you do it the right way with licensed and bonded debt servicing company and everything else, they can refinance out some point down the road after they've been able to build equity through sweat, which is what we do in rural America. We want to work on our houses. Yeah. So I started calling people that I know do this in the rural areas, and I said, hey, look, I know that y'all don't get on Facebook. These are ranchers and people that do this as a side hustle. And I'm like, but y'all need to get your checkbook out. You need to go to the Texas 100. You need to show up to the symposium. You need to get your voice heard, and you need to get the word out, because I can think, since we started doing this, we've attracted a lot of those people because that's the environment that we work in. I can't tell you how many cattle ranchers, how many just what y'all would think are the most country bumpkins. If they walked in here, y'all would just laugh.
More than you?
More than me, way more than me. That do this transaction, like Eddie said, with land, and it's something that from small banks, the consumers that get to buy the land and get to go out there and do their own work, put a model home on it, and have 10 acres and be able to shoot a hog and.
And we need to keep in mind that most of Texas is rural.
Most of Texas is rural.
Most counties
that is
are
right.
rural. And you would think that most of the legislators are going to see that and go, all right,
and that's going to be
how most homes are bought throughout Texas in the rural areas.
And that's my message to the legislators. It's like what I was trying to talk with everybody about. Like we don't pay attention to this stuff. I mean, we just don't.
And by that, not paying attention doesn't mean don't obey the laws. It means doesn't see the stuff is coming down the pipeline.
Don't see the stuff that's coming down the pipeline. I mean, we're all busy working. We're not watching what's going on in the Texas legislature. So if nobody makes it apparent to us, if we don't get together like this, if we don't actually pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, you need to pay attention to this. This is going to affect your livelihood. This is going to affect. And then even from one of my best friends from high school, he's president of the bank, and I call him. He had no idea this was happening, and it's going to affect his consumers that want to come in and do this stuff. It's homeowners, people that want to buy land, people that want to buy land separate from a home. I mean, it affects so many walks of life that I can think of that don't even get brought up.
So let's talk about some specifics. I know we'll go to a break here in a minute, but let's talk about some specific things that we're trying to focus on. Right now, the bigger operators, us times many more in the state, right? At least way more than 100 of us, but certainly 100 of us, right? We still need to fill the Texas 100, out, right? And we're close, but we need to get that done. And people say, well, let me just tell you this: if you do a large number of transactions a year,
even if you don't. It's a matter of getting involved.
But certainly, if you close 20 transactions a year or 50 transactions a year, you need to join the Texas 100. So it's a commitment of $1,000 a year for 3 years, right?
Can we drop a Texas100.org link out there for everybody to click on?
Now, for somebody else that's listening, our primary focus today is to make sure that you're aware of the symposium, because the symposium is where we're going to have a significant group of seller financiers in the same room. I will assure you that Caroline Jones will be there, and she's looking to see us. She is the commissioner of the Texas Mortgage and Savings, right? She is the lady that is in charge of running the commission that controls seller financing in Texas. The deal is, and because I've had the pleasure of talking to her and dealing with her, is she wants to hear from us. She wants to hear our position. She wants to hear what affects our customers and she needs to hear that, right? There's 3 laws that we know are coming down. There may be more, but we know there's 3. There's a law that will substantially affect wrap mortgages in general on lots of kind of properties and lots of kind of situations. Okay, we know that's going to happen.
How is it going to affect it?
It's going to be very restrictive in whether you can do a wrap loan or not. Okay, and so we know that we're going to our first attempt is to work with the lawmaker that is going to submit these laws. They've done them in the past. We know it's coming. It's pretty certain that if we don't have a seat at the table, it may get passed. It probably is going to get passed in a way that is not going to be exactly what we need. So we're working at that. So first is wraps. Secondly is loan servicing. So I know a lot of the larger loan servicers in Texas, as do you, and as do all of us, right? And then I know some people self-service. But the way this law is going to be written, unless adjusted, the financial standard to qualify as a loan servicer is pretty much going to be the level of a bank. Okay? So the small guy that can service his own loans, or the small specialized loan servicer that can service seller finance notes, this is a substantial issue within the industry. So we need to be able to represent to them that there are people that service loans other than gigantic banks. And that's really what the issue is. They get to hear their side. Now they need to hear our side.
Is that going to have a minimum of loans that they
Let me just tell you that the lobbyist has told me that the financial standard to qualify as a loan servicer is going to be with probably 6 or 7 digits in it. Okay, so it's significant. Okay, but once again, we believe that we believe this can get done. That's why we're here. Right? We're not fighting it because we think we're going to lose. We're fighting it because we think we can win, but we need a voice.
Right.
And the third thing is we need to get a law passed. Caroline Jones has told us specifically that in the state of Texas, that allowing for a third-party RMLO is an exception to the law. It has not been passed. It has been in guidance language that they have allowed this to happen. They've allowed it to happen for several years, and she says, you've got to give me the law that I need. So she wants us to work with her and get a law that allows for a third-party RMLO to originate. An RMLO, of course, is Residential Mortgage Loan Originator, and that's what you guys have done and run a business and done that. So these are the 3 things that we know are on the table. If you've ever dealt with any kind of legislative body, you know that that can change fairly quick. And so there may be other things that we come up with. Another thing, hey, this just passed. So you guys, incredible influence on social media has offered us an opportunity to like spread the word in a very explosive way. And we did that video the other day, and was it almost 10,000 views or something? So I mean, this is powerful.
We need people to understand.
The guys that are our friends in South Texas, the Texas Land Developer Association, super legit guys. They've had a lobby effort for 20 years, and they are the first to tell us, Eddie, we don't have this impact.
And a couple of things, too, to mention. I know you've got something to say, so I'll pass off to you in a second. But Daniel brought up a good point. Guys, if you know anybody in this industry, tag them right now in the comments. Go ahead and put a tag, just @ and their name. Get them watching this, because we need to spread this word. This is not about us, the individual. This is about a bigger issue that's going on, right? This is kind of separated out. You guys normally tune in on Wednesdays for Grant Teach Me Something, and I teach you, hey, how are we going to do this? Or how are we going to do this? This is a different kind of episode. We've really got to get this out. So tag somebody, share this video, comment, ask your questions. Guys, we really appreciate everybody that's tuning in right now, because you are understanding the severity of what's going on, and you are the solution, right? You sitting there right now watching this are the solution. So I don't want that to be lost on anybody. This is not, hey, let me tune in on Facebook real quick and see what other people are doing about this. This is, hey, ask not what your country can do for you, right? This is, hey, how can I get involved in this? So thank you so much for the guys that are asking about that. So you can get involved by going to the symposium, first and foremost, by joining at Texas 100, as we all have up here, and helping each other make sure that we have a voice. And then lastly, before I pass off to Scott, the other thing that I want to point out is that, so we've talked about a lobby effort, and we've talked about the Texas 100, and what I want to be very clear on is that the Texas 100 is a lobby effort for investors, right? That to have our voice heard in unity. Just because wraps are on the chopping block, or creative financing is the thing that we're needing to be focused on right now, does not mean that this lobby effort, that Texas 100, is for creative financing. This is a way for us as investors to unify. There's a quote, and I can't remember what it was, so I'm going to butcher it massively. Maybe somebody can correct me. But it was something along the lines of, like, when they came for our guns, I didn't care because I owned no guns. When they came for our ships, I didn't care because I owned no ships. And then and by the time they came for my thing, there was nobody left to help fight, right? That's kind of what we have to push in. Sean, Daniel, come on over here. We've got a couple of other guys that are as investors running late. Sean McQuistion and Daniel Klein, go ahead and pack in. You can see what fits on that monitor right here. But what I'm getting at here is that this is a protective measure. This is a way for all of our voices to be heard in unity together. And again, creative financing is what's being talked about now. But that doesn't mean that next legislative session there won't be something else that's after wholesaling or after flipping or after something like that. And we need to have a system now so that, as you mentioned, we ran into issues a decade ago where we didn't have that voice. We didn't have that voice and that ability to speak. And if we can set that up now, this will help us infinitely in the future. So just to break real quick and introduce the two that just walked in, we've got Daniel Klein and Sean McQuistion. These guys have done a ton in the seller financing industry. And guys, we're just talking about, again, what this does for the consumers that are out there, that we do have a voice that needs to be unified here. And you're looking at a lot of experience that just walked in the door as well. So again, the Texas 100, this effort is for us to unify as a voice together now and in the future. That's why, as part of the Texas 100 joining, we're asking $1,000 a year commitment for the next 3 years so that we can continue this effort on and continue making sure that these lawmakers that are doing a great job at representing the consumer and doing a great job at trying to help these issues are also able to hear a voice from us as well. So Scott, I know I cut you off a second ago, but what was it you were wanting to say?
I just have a couple of comments and then a question for Eddie. And one is, first off, in our note servicing business that's out there currently, how much better do we do than the national industry for all the issues they've had in the past?
Well, here's the point. I think when somebody's seller financing notes, if a customer has an issue, they can get somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
Right? They're not stuck in voicemail mania. They got a problem, they can get their problem solved.
Absolutely.
And so we believe that our loans are better serviced for the clients, who are the people that owe the money. We believe they're better serviced by specialty knowledge, people with specialized knowledge in seller financing than just the general public. And really, to be honest with you, it's been my life experience. The big banks don't really want to service our loans. It's not the product. It's not a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or FHA loan. And so our industry needs to be able to leave it with the specialized servicers that do best for the clients and do best at servicing loans for that business. So that's going to be our argument when we're in Austin. That's clearly what we're going to say is that we can't. Which big bank do we go see is going to service our loans? Well, Sean,
Right.
we can't find them, right?
They're not available.
And so that's a really critical issue, and we just need to. This is the whole point of coming to Austin for the symposium. The point in coming to Austin is for them to see us like you guys can see us now, and see that we are sincere business people that care about our customers, that care about doing the right thing, and the lawmakers, because I've now dealt with them enough, I completely understand. They just need somebody to tell them what is hurting your business and what are hurting people that you see that we could produce a fix.
There are a lot of people out there watching right now. Where can they find information on the symposium?
The Texas Home and Mortgage Symposium.org. Is that correct?
Do we have
And
a
there's
link
also,
for that?
yeah, we can throw that link in there.
Just ask.
And there's also, if you go to and I'm blocking you, Tay. Excuse me here. There's also, if you go to Texas100.org, there's a call to action tab, right?
Yeah.
So if you're already there because you are going to commit to be a part of this effort, there's a call to action tab, and there's when you sign up, you will be notified of things that are coming down the pipeline. Because like Corey mentioned, guys, if I didn't have a personal relationship with Eddie, there's no way I would have known really the details of what were going on. He filled me in on this. I'm like, holy cow, there's some serious stuff going on that we need to be aware of. Similarly, it sounds like Corey, if we weren't out here pushing, Corey wouldn't, and all the people that he's talked about. So think about that. Think about that realistically. You are finding out about this perhaps for the first time right now, although this has been going on for months now, right? The current session is only in session until May 27th. This is why I gave you the clickbaity title of emergency, because it is emergency. This is something that is happening right now, and we only have a couple of months to actually get together, be one voice, and we only have, 3 weeks away for the symposium.
Yeah.
March 5th and 6th is when we're going down to Austin. So plan it now. Go look at your calendar now and block that time now. And we will, if you are at the Texas100.org, there's a phone number there that you can call. And if you call it, you'll be put on a list for a text distribution immediately. So go ahead and call that, and that way we can give you some information about, hey, we're all leaving here, we're going to go to this place, that kind of thing, and keep you filled in on what's going on there. Ryan found our quote for me, and this is the quote, forgive me for knowing it. First they came for the socialists. I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So we have to make sure that we're banding together now to make sure that the details of this business that is helping a consumer does not get destroyed. So let's hop over here to some questions, see if we can't get a couple of things answered. Yes, sir.
So I will comment that real quick. In 2005, there were 10 of us in Austin. We need 10,000 this time, not 10.
And this is something that there's 130 or 140 last time I seen watching. How often are you the consumer on this transaction? How often do you go buy your flip as the consumer?
I live in a house that I bought this way.
Exactly. So one way or another, it's going to pull a strategy out of your portfolio. So you don't need to ignore this. This is something you need to pay attention to. You need to get behind, because we are all consumers in this transaction. I've bought mobile home parks on wraps. I've been the consumer on this transaction a lot. So
I got one more question for you too, Eddie.
Okay.
Besides the Texas 100 contributing $1,000 over the next 3 years each,
Right.
what can the smaller operator do for contribution and help as well?
Well, and I think that's what we're going to be able to talk about at the symposium. There may be somebody that's not at the level of a commitment, and when we come to the symposium, we'll have some smaller increments that somebody can make a payment.
I mean, can they make $25 or $50 or $100, anything?
There is a way on Texas100.org to donate less. If you do not have $1,000 right now, go ahead and sign up for what you can, right? This is not, we are an industry of many, and we have the capability to join together, and no voice is too small, right?
The marketplace to understand also, and the investors out there, that lobbyists are not cheap.
No.
Oh my gosh, they're expensive.
So we have a lobbyist. So the relationship that we have, the Texas 100 was formed both for the federal level of the Dodd-Frank issue, which was the Seller Finance Coalition, as well as the Texas Land Developer Association. They have a 20-year lobbyist that's been with them. His name is Chuck Rice. I know Chuck extremely well.
Sharp guy.
I talked
nice
to
guy.
Chuck on the way down here today to film this, and he has a seat at the table. He needs us to be able to show up, and so that he can show the lawmakers, these are the people that I do lobby efforts for. They need to hear from us. It's critical, because it has been said more than once that they're just not sure how big seller financing is across the country, because they just don't know who they represent. Now, with an ounce of caution, no, with a barrel of caution, Scott and I are going to assure you we don't need any lone cowboys. Okay? We don't need anybody going to your lawmaker and trying to make up your own position. That's not going to help our cause. We've had issues with that in the past. It hasn't worked well, and so we're not trying to make you not give you independence to think. We're trying to say that a lobbyist works with us in a manner that tells us these are the questions that my lawmakers are asking, and we're able to answer those questions.
Right.
So it doesn't produce a confused message, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
That's amazing.
You want
That's a
an
good
intelligent, coherent approach.
Right.
Yeah.
Sohail has a good question here. Does the proposed legislation just impact or severely limit owner finance loans with underlying liens, or is it all owner finance loans? I'm sure there's other parts of this legislation, but wanted to see if y'all can address this. Guys, I've read the proposed bill, and it is primarily going to be wraparound mortgages, underlying lien loans that are being affected by this. That's the thing that's really concerned. Now, as Eddie mentioned before,
that's one of the laws.
Yeah, there's other things with servicing, with RMLOs, with that. There is more to this, but when you're talking specifically on the note of the what kind of loans this is affecting, it is more of the wrap loan that we are.
And let me give you an example. Okay, the Texas Land Developer Association, who has a stake in it with us. Their members don't really do wraparounds the way typical real estate investors do. So that particular legislation doesn't exactly affect their whole membership the way it affects us. But servicing affects all of them, and the ability to hire an RMLO affects all of them. So for us to think, well, I'm going to handpick, I'm going to be interested in this issue, but not interested in this issue, it's back to your saying a while ago, right?
Right.
And and once again, we're not saying that the Texas 100 is going to fight any real estate investing issue in the world, but it definitely is going to be focused, because we don't know what that could be.
Right.
But we're definitely going to be highly focused on helping people related to creative financing, structuring owner financing for people. And Scott and I both remember extremely well back in the early 2000s where we didn't have a lobbyist, we were working ourselves in a position, and some guy goes in there and basically cusses out the lawmakers, and we were done. We were done.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to say, as an industry, you know, we've got to go act responsibly. If they want to help us, if the lawmakers want to help us do our business and help us continue helping clients, they've got to believe in us.
Right.
They got to believe we're reasonable people, and we've got good in mind.
Right.
And that's all we're trying to reflect to them.
And again, just to stress too, I mean, we see these things as from our viewpoint a lot as the investor, as this business person. But I mean, guys, Daniel, Sean, how many people have you been able to personally put into a home that could not have otherwise found home ownership? We kind of talked about that outside of that, but what's kind of a roundabout number of how many people that you've allowed to have that kind of American dream, otherwise it wouldn't have been able to reach that, if you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah.
That's a big number.
It's a lot.
We've helped thousands. Actually,
Thousands.
Let me give you an example. So, just this week, we helped a family, you know, a true family, working hard every day. They were able to prove that they can afford the monthly payments. But I'll tell you, Grant, when they got that house, they got keys to their house. I mean, that they own, their home, right? Something that banks tell them that they can't have a home.
Yeah.
They have to be renters for the rest of their lives. And you give them the keys of something that, you know, that is theirs. Just the feeling that, I mean, it's just, I can't put into words just how great that
cool
makes
that
me
is.
feel.
I had a
that you can help
situation.
people.
I had a situation similar to that maybe a year or two ago. Scott and I did a house together, and you know, the whole closing, this couple was real calm, real solemn, real quiet. You know, just. You know, and the wife was, I think, 7 or 8 months pregnant.
Wow.
You know, she was about ready. They're very, and you know, it's kind of an interesting closing because we close, and then at the end, literally made me repeat it 5 times. So this is my house now. This is so now I own this. Made me repeat it 5 times, and then they got this big smile on their face, and I was like, okay, that's cool. They were just kind of nervous about it. Hand on the key. They went outside, and when they thought I couldn't see them, the man picked his wife up, ran to their car, and they just started kissing and hugging on their hood of their car, and they were so happy. They kind of galloped over and got in their car and drove off. I took a picture of it. I sent it to them later. I was like, remember this moment, right?
Well,
this is a cool moment for you.
Hey, that's what keeps us all going. Right. I get that. That's what drives the industry also. It's not just, I mean, yeah, I get it, the fact that sometimes we get a chance to make some money doing this, et cetera, but it's also about the way we help people. And it is so important to recognize that factor. And I had a point, which I'll come back to in a moment. I forgot what it was.
All right, so somebody asked if there's a synopsis of this. Again, we want to make very clear here, right? We have a very clear takeaway from this. The symposium, March 5th and 6th. That's what you need to know. March 5th and 6th, we will be going down to Austin, and we need you to be there with us. We need to have our voice heard as a singular unit, showing these lawmakers who have asked us to show them, hey, show us that this is something that people are doing. Show us that this is, you know, worth our time paying attention to, and we will give it that proper respect. So March 5th and 6th, that is the thing that you need to remember. If you are unable to do that, or if you are able to do 2 things, the next priority, go to texas100.org and join. Whatever level you can join at. We're asking to join at $1,000 a month, $1,000 a year for the next 3 years. I'll take $1,000 a month. Yeah, let's do that. Daniel's going to join. Daniel and Ryan will be going down with us to the symposium. So please, if you are planning to go, please comment now. I'm going to the symposium. If you don't know how to spell symposium, just say I'm going, right? Because I don't know how to spell it. I'd spell
I'm
it
the
for
one
you,
with dyslexia. What are you talking about?
So let's see if we've got a couple more questions. We'll wrap up. I think we've gotten a lot of good points out, unless you think that there's anything else that really needs to be hammered in there. But let's look at the comments here and give you guys a moment to have your voice heard so that we can address some of those things. So Daniel pops in and says, let's get a party bus and do the trip to Austin, Propelio style. We can run from DFW to Houston, then to San Antonio, and roll up to Austin like boss rolling thousands deep. Hey, you know what? I support that wholeheartedly. I think that is a great plan, and we should definitely plan that. So if you are interested in going, #PartyBus right now in the comments, right? Let us know.
Grant,
so make sure to like, comment, and share that.
Is this getting out, though, to the real estate investment clubs across Texas?
Yes, we need to share that, and that's actually a very good point. If you have a connection with somebody who runs a real estate investment club
or a meetup
or whatever, please share this information with them on top of tagging them here, whatever that might be. But that's a very good point. We need as many people with a voice as possible because, like Corey pointed out earlier, without somebody calling, nobody knows, right? So, you know, Marshall, my wife gives birth in 35 days, but I'll be there for the symposium. No excuses. There you go, Marshall.
And he spelled it right also.
And he spelled it right, yeah.
And I'll speak up to Travis or to Marshall because I'm doing one of his deals right now.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Farron says it's important for the entire country. Thank you for standing up for our customers and for your fellow investors. And that's true. You know, this is something that we do. We need to show that this is something that can be done. What are the bill numbers? It's SB, crap, what is it?
At the moment, none of the bills have been presented.
Okay.
Nicholas runs the brick meeting in College Station.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm actually going down there. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Good. Speaking down there, I think.
Now we'll be communicating as bills unfold. We'll be highly communicative of what that's going to look like and what we need you to do. Once again, right now, we already know from our lobby efforts. We already know that the 3 bills that we've mentioned are the ones that we're going to need to focus on. One of which we're going to have to introduce a bill, and 2, we're going to have to work with the bill that's going to be introduced.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll get a couple more questions and then we will wrap this up. Gustavo says, as the tip of the iceberg, more legislation is going to be presented to unite now, and yes, that is a big reason of why we need this voice now. You know, this is a cool industry or time that we're in. You know, Tang has done a great job with his social media presence and following, and he really understands the power of voice that can be had on something like that, right?
This is a big industry that we love, and the people, the consumers that we're helping. That's why I went towards this exit strategy because of that.
Right.
So
and through the experiences that you've been able to have, and through that, there's been many out there who've seen what he's done and really been interested by that and hear you. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that we all have that capability. This is a really cool period in time, in that a decade ago, 2004, 2005, Facebook didn't exist. We couldn't like, share, and get 10,000 views in a day, right? So that's what we need now. We have a power now to change things that was never present to us before when big issues were being there. Right now is a time to set that precedent. Right now is that time to say, look guys, we have a technology that's available to us that gets a voice heard as a common man through my just sitting and clicking a button at the computer that you need to take advantage of, and then we need to grow that into, again, showing in person at the symposium to do that. So please, please, please get involved there.
That's a great point. This is from Mariska, right? So Mariska says, you know, keep the fight up. Although we're in Washington, we're paying attention. Well, Larry and Mariska have a long history with me.
Good.
Okay, they're smart people. They understand doing the business well, and Washington State is an example. We already have a Colorado 100 in motion.
Good.
Right. So the Texas 100 was built to be an example of how to go build it across the United States. There is federal legislation, there is state legislation. At the end of the day, we're going to have to work together with both so that seller financing really is where it needs to be. You can't just change one law in the state, not change the federal, like they're congruent. And so that's exactly the direction that we decided when we started with the Texas 100.
And, you know, again, I'm going to echo all this, but whether you're in North Texas or South Texas or West Texas or East Texas or Central Texas, it doesn't matter where you are or what you might think, what your voice might be heard, you need to be there. Years ago, it was a 10,000 voice group is all the legislators heard. They didn't hear our 10 voices. They need a strong, or we need a strong voice.
And we have that capability, guys. We absolutely do. Andrew, who's in Colorado and was asking me about a Colorado 100, and we'll be very glad to hear that that's in motion. Is there a real proponent of this bill or just a knee-jerk reaction and pushback against the wild west of off-market financing? You know, and that's one of the things I think you brought up earlier, and I think we all voice the same concern. We are all against the wild west of owner financing. Everyone everyone standing up here was invited because they do things the right way, right? And understand that there is the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things. And there are going to be bad apples. That's going to happen. We want those bad apples gone. Right. We have no problem with legislation going into place that does protect that consumer against that person. And Senator Zaffirini is the one that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it sponsoring? Is that
she
the word
would sponsor, yes.
Sponsoring these bills. And again, as Mitch has put it,
she's sponsor one of the specific bills. And once again, she hasn't presented it yet. We just know in conversation that she's going to go in that direction.
Right.
And we've had a relationship with her where she's willing to listen to us. And she is...
And she's not a knee-jerker.
No.
She's an intelligent lady.
She has a record of having the most votes in Austin of any other lawmaker, like for the last 20 years. She holds the record. So she's for good for the people in the state. There's no doubt about that.
Right, absolutely. So this isn't, again, we want to be very clear. This is not, oh, big bad lawmaker trying to come in and change things. Absolutely not. Zaffirini is doing her job. She is representing, and she is trying to do her best to make sure that consumers are protected, and we support that. We just also understand that we are the professionals, and we're the ones that are doing this day in and day out, and we don't want something to unintentionally be killed by people who are trying to protect the consumer, and that's why our voices need to be heard. So regardless, if you're an investor, if you're a realtor, if you're interested in getting into the business, if you've been in the business, March 5th and 6th, we will be going down to Austin. It sounds like we've got a party bus. Hashtag party bus if you want to get a rental there doing that. And we will be moving down there and getting our voice heard. Guys, thank you.
Ryan, I'm glad we could get you to work on something this afternoon.
You didn't have enough. So thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Again, this is terribly important. Share this everywhere you can share this. Comment on this because Facebook likes it. If you're watching, just say hi. Just say something on the comments because Facebook will reward that by showing more people if we have more comments. I'm just being very upfront about that. So comment, like, share, get this message out there. Pick up the phone. If you know people that don't have Facebook or social media or internet or whatever that might be, pick up the phone, text somebody, whatever it is. So absolutely, thank you guys for joining. We're glad you're here. Are there any final thoughts that you wanted to push out there?
Looking at the question up there about realtors out there, I think realtors are an important factor to this as well. Realtors don't really understand this business that well, but they also work with a lot of consumers who simply can't buy homes in that regard. And if they have a knowledge base where they can actually help their clients by utilizing a wraparound mortgage.
Let me suggest this. If you're a realtor, both at the state level and at the federal level, you need to make sure that your lobby effort of being a realtor recognizes that you believe that seller financing is an impact on the realty industry, okay? Because I will tell you that message has gotten confused in the past. And their lobby effort and those associations need to know how important it is. So absolutely. We know a lot of people that are licensed realtors work in our business every day, but they don't push back to their industry association enough to say, we need you guys to support these efforts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't stop. If you're watching the replay, do hashtag replay. Don't stop sharing. Don't stop liking. Don't stop believing. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time at the symposium, March 5th and 6th.